The Linux Action Show is created by Jupiter Broadcasting. It's sponsored by Ting. Go to last.ting.com to save off your first device or plan, and DigitalOcean. Go over to DigitalOcean.com and use our promo code LASTDigital, and then you can spin up your own Linux rig for free. Welcome to Linux Action Show, episode 363. My name is Chris.
My name is Noah.
Hey, Noah. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Chris.
All right, let me tell everybody about the big show coming up today. We're going to bring on the founder of OBS, the open broadcaster software that we use to live stream from the floor of LinuxFest Northwest 2015 next weekend. It's an amazing project that's truly bringing live video production to Linux in a way never before possible. We've got a ton of questions, and we want to find out where that project is going. Plus, we've got an interesting initiative in the news segment we're going to talk about, putting Linux on USB sticks for students. Also, some information after the big 3-year mark of the Steam reveal, and the endless computer. What the heck is it? And is it truly a Linux computer for everyone? That'll be in the news segment. Plus, we have some great feedback and our picks. Noah.
Of course, the picks.
Gotta have the picks.
Gotta have the picks.
Let's start right there. Our runs Linux this week came in from Luke. This is great. 1940s Media Center, Noah?
Yeah, you're going to get a kick out of this. So
Okay.
I'm always talking about people that switch to Linux, right?
Yeah.
Now, this guy, what he did is his granddad, I believe, owns a antique shop.
Yeah, it looks like it's an old 1940s era unit he's got, right,
Yeah.
from this antique shop. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so he sent this in and he said, I took an old 1940s think record player or audio unit from my dad's antique shop and modified it to suit my needs. I removed all of the broken internal components, fixed it up, painted it, and then turned it into a base for my music and entertainment center. You might be able to see the Raspberry Pi and USB hub sticking out just below the screen. The tiny computer's running RasBMC. Not only that, but there's a 3.5 audio output on the Pi that's connected to my sound system, which is behind the door, where the record player used to sit. This enables me to use Kodi or XBMC to play all of my music through my speakers, which are behind the grill at the lower part of the unit. I can use all my Kodi apps like SoundCloud or play personal music collection while getting to utilize a decent set of speakers. Well,
That's pretty classy looking, Noah.
well, not only is it classy, I love like retro things that do modern things.
Yeah.
I think that's so cool when people can do stuff like this.
And these kinds of things were designed back in an era where this was part of your furniture.
Yeah.
This was something you had in your living
Yeah,
room,
because
right?
the craftsmanship and the build quality was there. That was not a use it for 3 years and then throw it away.
Right, yeah. So why not get some good use out of it and make it into a Raspberry Pi powered media center? That's a pretty good one, Luke. We love getting emails in from the audience. He says, keep up the great work on the universe's greatest podcast network. Wow. He probably knows. He probably knows.
He's figured it out. He's a smart guy.
He says he's happy to have Netflix in his house, too, with the Chromecast plugged in. Hey, Noah, you know what I'm happy about?
Tell me what you're happy about,
Our
Chris.
first sponsor this week, that's DigitalOcean, and they're like my very own crack. I tell you what, it's like I just can't get enough of that DigitalOcean. Good thing the pricing's so awesome, and DigitalOcean is so great. DigitalOcean is a simple cloud hosting provider dedicated to offering the most intuitive and easy way to spin up your own cloud server. And over LinuxFest Northwest, when we needed to sync assets between my laptop and Noah's production streaming rig in real time, there was no choice. No choice. Like, we knew it had to work and it had to work every single time in real time. We went to DigitalOcean.
Right.
It was a no-brainer. We had it syncing on an own cloud instance up on my DigitalOcean droplet, and it worked flawlessly. And you can get started in under 55 seconds, which is kind of a mind job if you think about it. Spinning up your own Linux rig in under 55 seconds, that just blows my mind. And get this, it starts for less than $5, or starts right around $5 a month. But what I love about it is the pricing structure sort of ramps up really logically. So $5 is going to get you 512 megabytes of RAM, a 20 gigabyte SSD, 1 CPU, and a terabyte of transfer. All right, so that's easy to understand. And then the $10 a month just sort of bumps each one of those specs up a notch. And then the next pricing bracket bumps it up another notch. It's really straightforward. So when I wanted to go build a Minecraft server for my son, I was like, maybe I want 2 gigs of RAM this time. And it's just $20.
You know, we talk about cool technology on here all the time. We talk about applications, and we mention things like OwnCloud, and then people probably, if at least if it was me, I oftentimes sit down and go, well, I'd love to give that a shot, but oftentimes some of those applications require a machine to be live on the internet, or maybe you're not comfortable punching a hole in your firewall.
Yeah.
DigitalOcean's a great way that you can spin it up, and if it does become compromised, if it's just a test machine, you're just testing how something works, doesn't really matter.
And the other nice thing about it is it's really like, so you say OwnCloud's a great example because the best experience with OwnCloud is using it when you're on the go, and then you're not worrying about the firewall because it's, it works on your mobile, it works on your home connection, it works at your office. That's really nice. They have one-click application deployments too for a ton of really great applications and stacks too, like Ruby on Rails, the whole stack, GitLab, all of that. You can just deploy it to your DigitalOcean droplet. That's nice. Their interface to manage all this is crazy simple and intuitive. I mean, it really is the best out there. And then I'm not just saying that too; it truly is the best out there. And then they have an API to allow you to take advantage of the control panel on a much larger scale. And they have data centers in New York, San Francisco, Singapore, Amsterdam, and a brand new one in Germany. It really is a great setup. And then what I really love is, even if you're not an expert, their tutorials are just so damn good that now, like when you're starting to search for stuff on Google in general, DigitalOcean tutorials are showing up because they're just the best of the best.
And I've used a couple DigitalOcean tutorials to work on local machines. Like if I'm spinning something
Don't tell them, right? Don't tell DigitalOcean, right? Because they're so good.
Well, but then I'm already at the site. Yeah, and then I'm on there for the tutorial, and then I screw something up, and I'm like, this has happened a couple times. And I'm like, well, I'll just spin up a droplet.
Do it.
That's easy enough.
And that's why Noah has so many. So use our so go over to DigitalOcean, check them out, and use our promo code to get a $10 credit, right? That way you can try out that $5 rig 2 months for free. It's LAS Digital. LAS Digital. DigitalOcean, you're my boo. I love you, baby. DigitalOcean.com. Promo code LAS Digital. All right, our app pick this week is something crazy. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to pronounce it correctly.
Natron, I believe it's how it's pronounced. Now, the thing is, you and I are always looking to find Linux alternatives to the software that we use on PC or Mac, right?
Heck yeah.
And one of the huge gotcha, at least in the media production world, is After Effects. A lot of people use After Effects, and of course, there is a need for compositing. Like, for example, in all of the start of the Jupiter Broadcasting shows, you have those compositing shots that they just kind of warm everything up and give everything a little bit of extra pizzazz and a little extra glow. Natron is an open source cross-platform composition software that allows you to do some of the same things that Adobe After Effects does.
Wow.
So I think what is Apple's version? Motion. So like Motion and After Effects, there are some plugins. People will design things and then they put them up on, because it's a community project. I believe there are some community sites that have popped up. My hope would be that a little bit down the road, eventually we get to a point that the paid places that have the paid plugins that you can use, or paid templates, the people that are good at doing this stuff can do this compositing. Now, I know that Blender is a real popular piece of software in the community, but I've always found Blender a little difficult to work with. Yeah. And looking at some of the screenshots and watching a little bit of video,
this is more in line of what I'd be used to seeing in After Effects, or maybe even Motion. Yeah.
Right. So it looks like it's a little bit more professional, I guess is the word.
Definitely agree with you on that. Yeah, this is looking really good, and you can see it has 3D space for the cameras, which is key. I can see this.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I'll only install it on Linux. I don't have anything else to install it on. But the thing that I think is really neat, or the reason I appreciate cross-platform software, is I am perfectly comfortable telling somebody else that maybe is comfortable on another platform, hey, go ahead and give this software a try. We're not going to do anything to your computer. You're just installing an application. If it works out for you, great. If it doesn't, no harm, no foul.
This is really interesting. So here in this shot, Noah, so you can see they're doing a garbage mat right here. So you see they have this. So they're outside. Here's her shot. She's outside. They're doing a green screen, and then the garbage mat, so that way they can just cut it out. And then look the way they do the chain here. So this is what I think is particularly interesting. So here's the camera, right? So this is your camera mark, and then they're chaining the tracker the map motion tracker. So when she moves, the garbage mat moves with her. Then they're running it through a chroma key, and this is probably a color changer to make the green stand out. And then they're color grading the green right here. And then they're merging the mat, and then here's the final composited view. And you can see this is the whole chain. And look, this is where they bring the picture in, and then all that links in right there at the merge spot.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty understandable UI. It's a little sparse, but if you know how these kinds of software works,
I was going to say, I'm sure if I'm not a compositor, I don't do this kind of stuff, but if you did, I'm sure a lot of these tools would make a lot of sense to you.
It does, actually.
But cross-platform, runs on Linux, in open source software, what's not to love, and what better week to talk about it than this week?
No kidding. Natron,
I think is how it's pronounced.
Yeah, it looks pretty serious. It looks like I would get lost in it, but this flow that you're seeing here, the way they're doing this, some of the most high-end, like super expensive, way beyond what After Effects software does, uses this sort of layout to do it.
Please excuse my ignorance, but I was under the impression that After Effects was kind of the industry for doing stuff like that.
But then you go up to Hollywood grade, where like you're doing stuff in real time in the camera and stuff like that, and then you do these pipeline type stuff. Like, so this is something that's like,
I guess I wasn't aware of that. So
it's like with the media production stuff. It's the same thing with like Linux. Like there is super crazy high-end media production done on Linux that is like this whole other universe that doesn't even exist to us. It's the same stuff with the Hollywood grade type stuff. And
the last time I made that comment on air regarding I think it was one of the Disney movies. A viewer actually said sent in showing the exact software, and you can't. I mean, if you have $20,000, you can't. You can't actually buy it.
Yeah, I know.
So
I know.
sometimes it does exist in our world.
Yeah.
I'm just not aware of it.
Yeah, exactly. This is something that might be a little more approachable to the rest of us, though. We all love the Raspberry Pi. In fact, it seems like the love for the Raspberry Pi just really hasn't faded. But if you wanted to make it, I don't know, a full-fledged computer that you could build yourself and take with you.
Right. And how many times do you hear, when you talk about building a computer, did you ever have a client ask you to build a machine, and then they'd say, well, could you build a laptop?
Oh.
I've had a couple people
How many times
ask
have I wanted to build my own laptop?
Yeah.
A lot.
So the thing that has always bothered me about some of the projects that exist to build a laptop is there's a lot of cost involved, right? And so this is a PiTop is a project where essentially you're going to build yourself a laptop out of a Raspberry Pi. Now, producer Q5Sys actually has done something like this with the Motorola dock and a Raspberry Pi. Now, this is just taking it one step further.
So they are doing a crowdfunding Indiegogo campaign. They have raised $188,000. It's 217% funded. It reached that funding on December 8th, actually. But I thought maybe we'd play a little bit of it because it's kind of neat. It's a neat video. It's a neat concept, and so the video kind of explains a little bit of it.
Hi, I'm Ryan.
And I'm Jesse.
When Jesse and I first met, I realised we both shared a passion for working with hardware, especially the Raspberry Pi. We started looking into ways to make hardware creation more accessible.
We set out to make a mobile and versatile product that can be used by anyone to learn how to make anything. We've been through a number of iterations, and now we're on PiTop, a Raspberry Pi laptop you build yourself.
A Raspberry Pi
We are
laptop.
at a time when there are so many new technologies coming out that we as individuals can start to rethink product creation and consumption. This is why we built PiTop. We want to give you the platform to understand hardware creation like never before.
PiTop is a product designed to teach you how to make other products. But before you do that, you'll be learning how to make the PiTop itself. PiTop is open source, so you can understand every component that goes into making a mobile computer. With that base knowledge...
So for those of you on the audio version, it looks like a 3D printed housing, and it has a keyboard and a trackpad area, and then the area in front between the keyboard and the monitor is opened up and covered with a plexiglass top. That plexiglass top slides out the side, and the Raspberry Pi goes inside there where you assemble it all together. And then it goes into a housing, you close it up, and you now have a portable Raspberry Pi connected to a keyboard, mouse, and screen.
Computer. With that base knowledge, you'll be moving on to the PiTop lesson plans, where we break down every complex technical hurdle so you can start making hardware from day one.
And then it looks like once you install it, they have a guide that even shows you like electrical circuit diagrams and things like this.
PiTop teaches you key transferable skills so that you can go from building and coding simple LED circuits to building your own robots to making home automation sensors that will literally transform the way you live. We have developed a range of Raspberry Pi hats to make this easier than ever. Hats are small add-on boards that give the Raspberry Pi extra functionality.
Neat.
For example, our home automation hat allows you to gather data from the environment, then use that to control home appliances.
Cool.
Our robot hat enables you to easily build and code a Raspberry Pi robot, customize it with sensors, and make it your own with a 3D printed chassis.
By learning and understanding electronics, printed circuit boards, and 3D printing, you'll be able to design and make your own products.
You know, we've been talking on Linux Unplugged a lot about using a Raspberry Pi as a great children's computer to teach them the basics of building a computer again. Now that consumer electronics and computers are getting to be so pre-packaged and so pre-built and things like that, the Raspberry Pi kind of brings some of that back.
Yep.
And this is a neat concept. Do you look at this and think that this might work for something for your kids?
Yep.
What do you think?
Yeah, well, so my son came to me a couple days ago and said, Dad, I want to build a computer. Can you teach? Well, he wanted to help fix computers. So I said, yeah, no problem. So we went and, like, that moment, went downstairs, got a Raspberry Pi.
Take advantage of that, right?
Yeah, right. And I showed him how to assemble it, and he's really proud of himself. He can identify the USB cables and the HDMI cables, and he can assemble the thing. And his latest achievement in life is he has learned how to restore it. So he can hold the shift key down, which I didn't even know you could do this. Did you know on the Noobs installer, if you hold the shift key when you boot the SD card, it reflashes the whole thing?
Nice.
Yeah, didn't know that.
That's
So he figured it out, and he's figured out how to reinstall the operating system. So, it was a short transition to say, so that's how you did it on the Pi. The next thing is going to be, we'll show him how to do it on an actual laptop. But something like this would help grease that transition.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So I would definitely throw down some money for that.
Not only does it help move that, does it help with that transition, but it seems like it teaches a few fundamentals that would help moving forward. Plus, if you put this thing on a laptop, with the Raspberry Pi 2, you could actually probably get some actual mileage out of this thing.
Just wish that there were more of these things that were x86 based, not so much.
Well, we talked to the Minoborg guys at LinuxFest Northwest,
Yeah.
and we might be seeing more of that soon if Intel has their way. I wouldn't be too surprised. So it's called Pi-Top, and it is available right now for funding over on Indiegogo, and they've already reached their funding, so I think they're already going to start working on it. I think it's a pretty neat initiative, and it has 766 funders, and you might be able to become one of them. Check it out. It's called Pi-Top. All right, Noah, that's the picks for this week's episode of Linux Action Shows. You know what that means?
Time for the news.
Let's do the news.
Hey, it's the news, and this episode is brought to you by
Ting.com, last.ting.com, last.ting.com. Go to last.ting.com and save $25 off your first Ting device. Or if you have a Ting-compatible device, and you just might, go to last.ting.com and get $25 in Ting service credit. Now, you might be asking, what the heck is Ting? Well, I'll tell you what Ting is. Ting is mobile that makes sense. It's mobile that's finally different. You only pay for what you use. It's a flat $6 for your Ting line. Each device, you just add it. It's $6. There's no contract, no termination fee, and you just pay for what you use. Boom. That's why Noah and I have baller phones. We got like how many Ting phones do you have?
Between us, man, I mean, I don't know, individual. I think I have. Listen, you know what? Let me tell you how I can tell, Chris, because I can go over to their awesome portal,
They do have
and in
an
like
awesome
3
dashboard.
seconds, I can log in and I can see every device that's on my account. Not only can I do that, but I can go in there and configure each one of those lines. So, for example, I don't want my son to be getting on data. I just want him to be able to call me, and I can turn that off for him. My wife and I can set alerts, so I get an email anytime either one of us go over what I want to set our plans
I
for.
love their dashboard. They have such a good dashboard to manage your phone, and it makes it so simple to see right where you're at. And so, like for me, I've got 3 lines on Ting right now, and I can just go in there and see which each line's costing me.
So I've got my home phone on Ting. I have one of my employees on Ting. I have my backup phone, which is a tiny little $29 phone that I bought on eBay. And it's funny, I spend all this money on these cool smartphones because he who has the coolest toys wins. We don't know what he wins, but he wins. And yet everyone is impressed with my $19 Chinese-made cell phone.
They were, yeah.
I've got my S4, of course. I have my son's phone. I have one of my relatives, and of course, I have my wife. And my entire bill.
So that's 7 active devices on your
7
phone.
active devices, and I'm just paying $6 for each one of those devices. So I don't mind giving my son one of those phones. It's not a problem because if I'm not using it for 1 month, I'll just shut it off, and then I can reactivate it the next month, the month
It's
after.
just $6 for you. So what's your total
I
bill
just leave it on
with 7 devices?
My
on?
total bill right now is $42.30, and they give me an estimate based on my past usage. It's going to be $101
for 7 lines.
For 7 lines. Now compare that. I had just my wife and I on another. I forget the name of whoever that big provider was, but I was paying over $200 for both of us to have.
For 2 lines.
Yeah, for both of us to have phones. And now I can use my phone however I want, and I get 7 of them.
You just pay for what you use. Go to last.ting.com to get started. And if you need something with your brand new Android device to take your heart rate, you don't have to get a smartwatch. No, son, you could do it with an app on your phone. Did you know that? And it's legit. Kyra's here to tell you all about it.
Want to check your heart rate but don't want to shell out hundreds for a smartwatch? I'm Kyra, and this is Ting's App of the Week.
Go, Kyra! Go, girl! Pick that up!
Runtastic Heart Rate is a simple app that lets you check your heart rate whenever you want, directly from your smartphone. Using your camera and flash, Runtastic measures your pulse to actually produce an accurate reading. When first opening the app, create an account and enter your personal information. Tap Start to begin measuring your heart rate. Make sure to hold your finger on the back of the device until the red circle completes. Once finished, you can choose to save or discard your reading. Select a measuring type based on what you're up to, such as resting heart rate or after sport, along with entering your current mood. You can share your stats on a variety of social channels along with Runtastic's website. Swipe left to view the history page, which displays your previous stats on a neat bar graph. Runtastic Heart Rate is available for free on Android and iPhone. There's also a paid version for $2, which allows unlimited measurements, filters, no ads, and more. Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe to our channel.
Last.ting.com. Go to last.ting.com to take advantage of our special $25 discount off your first device. And if you've already got a compatible device, and they have that huge GSM coverage now and that CDMA coverage, they'll give you $25 service credit. And that, my friends, that paid for more than my first month. That actually paid for like a month and change for me. That's how much of a value Ting is. It's crazy. Last.ting.com. They also have that savings calculator if you're curious before you make any switches. And then last but not least, they have that early termination relief program where they're going to pay a little bit of money to get you off that plan. Because I know that you want to get off that contract. Right, Noah?
I do. I
All right,
like
sir. Are you ready?
just paying for what I use.
Are you ready to transition into the news?
I would love
good
to talk
friend?
about the news because today is going to be kind of a fun news day.
It is. This is the first story you grabbed for us today is one you said this first story is one that, man, I wish we would have had this when I was a kid.
So I went to, I was in college, and of course all the college computers ran Windows, or at least the majority of them did. We did have, it's actually a funny story. I had the first day in class, that teacher was telling us, well, we have the Mac lab and the Windows lab, and we have the Penguin lab. Can anyone tell me why it's called the Penguin lab? And this kid, very, very enthusiastically throws his hand up and goes, I know. Well, tell us why. And he goes, because it's very cold in there. Really, dude? But anyway, finding a Linux computer was a little difficult, and I thought about bringing my own computer, but that's kind of a pain because I already have this hardware that's already set up. The LearnStick is a Linux-based USB device that you, the way I understand it is you essentially plug it in, and it's like a bring your own device, so you can use your own computer. And it is specifically tailored for education.
Okay.
So, for example, I guess at scale it would be something like all the students purchase this LearnStick, and maybe they have a really decent, display and keyboard and all this stuff set up.
Yeah.
Then you come in with your LearnStick, and so everyone, they can save files. And I think this is only possible because technology has gotten to the point now where we can put an entire computer in what would have been a USB drive.
Yeah. So the whole idea here is you essentially run off of this.
Either it runs off there or it runs off of the existing hardware that's there, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. So it almost turns the existing hardware into like a thin client.
Yes, right.
And
right.
And so
but you can save all your data, quote unquote, locally onto that
right, and
LearnStick.
then that also means that the processing power of that is not as important either, which is pretty neat.
The image is available for download at the LearnStick site. You can take that, and I believe you can just put it onto.
A stick. Now, part of it's in German, so it's hard for us to read.
Right,
but it's
right,
pretty neat. Yeah, it looks like you build a flash.
Yeah,
it doesn't look like it's hardware dependent,
Right.
which is nice. Yeah, I was just looking at I was trying to see if they had the this part in English to describe how you do it, but no, it is in German.
Yeah, it was a little difficult.
English,
it was a little difficult to navigate the site, but one, we broadcast to an international audience, so it is relevant to a lot of people. And two, I would actually be willing to go through to try and get some of this interpreted for the purpose of being able to use it, because I think it has wild potential. And if nothing else, the idea that I can carry a computer in my pocket.
And it looks like they're selling one of these sticks that has an Ethernet port in it too, so it's more than just your average stick if you have Ethernet in it as well, which they specifically say could be used for specific types of training. This is really neat. And the LearnStick distribution contains educational programs, multimedia software, and a complete Office package, games programs, and software for digital picture editing. These are all different open source programs that are included specifically for education.
I mean, really, for me, as long as I have an Office suite, a web browser, and a terminal, those are the only three things I really have to have access to at all three times.
Yeah.
And so if I have access to those three applications, I'm a happy camper.
All right, our next story comes along in an era where nobody can ever let good be and just sit there and be good enough. No. If we can, we must fork. And ergo, we have a replacement, a alternative init system. It's not necessarily a fork, but yet smells like one the same. It is the
GNU
DMD, which stands for, I'm trying to remember, I think it was Damon's Managing Daemons Project, right? What the hell's going on here, Noah?
It sounds like a recursive acronym. So the idea is that obviously Systemd being a fine project and something that I personally really appreciate and support, especially being a systems administrator, but
not everybody likes it though, Noah.
No, the GNU Freedom people, they always want to step one thing up, and so they though acknowledge that the current init system is a little bit dated. So we're going to create a new one that is freedom friendly or freedom respecting or Libre respecting or whatever the
so they say here it's a service manager that provides a replacement for the service managing capabilities of System 5 or another init systems, a both powerful and beautiful dependency based system with a convenient interface. It is intended for use on GNU/Herd, of course. But it's supposed to work on every POSIX-like system. In particular, it has been tested on GNU/Linux and the GUIX distribution. It's in early development stages and can be found on the GNU FTP server for alpha versions. You going to load it on your box?
No, I'm not. I appreciate that stuff like this exists, just like I appreciate Triskel, the fact that Triskel exists. But I'm going to steal your line and say that if I was to use Triskel, by the time I got done making it usable for me, I would have undid all the things they did to make it Triskel to begin with. So there really isn't much of a point.
Yeah. All right, Noah, well, guess what?
Tell me what.
It's been a few years, if you can believe it. I actually do mean a few years since we've got the big news about Steam coming to Linux. It was this week, 3 years ago, when Michael Larabel over on Phoronix got his big interview with Gabe and the folks over at Valve about their Steam client ambitions. And we go through and he recaps some of that, including some exciting Linux progress, as well as 1,100 games now available on Steam. And the big things we're looking forward to this year for Steam, as well as Source 2, Steam Machines, and the Steam Controller, all expected to be released before the end of the year. Maybe we'll even see SteamOS fully stabilized. A lot of stuff coming up also around the Vulkan driver that's being financed for Valve as soon as the Kronos Group releases their first Vulkan specification. So, even though we're 3 years in, it looks like this might be one of our biggest years yet. We might finally get to see the Steam Machines. We're going to see more games. Source 2. Is this the year that Noah becomes a gamer under Linux?
You know, it could happen. The thing that appeals to me about the Steam box is I like playing games. Like, I used to play Nintendo 64. Just by the time I got into college, and then I just kind of lost all real time to play games. But if I could have a box that I could put in my living room and just, sit down and relax for a little bit and play every once in a while, and I don't always run necessarily quote-unquote high-end hardware. I go through laptops like the wind, but a lot of times they'll be Celerons, and a lot of times they're just integrated graphics.
And you don't worry about the GPU,
right?
Yeah.
So it's not really my thing. But if I had to wager a guess, I would say that they will probably release this at the end of November on Black Friday, because that's when these game consoles get out, and that's when everyone wants to buy them for Christmas presents. And if that happens, I will not be one of the people camping at Best Buy for 7.5 weeks, but I will purchase one online when those people have their stuff, and I can buy mine.
I'm torn too, because I want to build one pretty soon. I want to get one pretty soon so that way we can review it on the show. But at the same time, it's like, I don't ever see myself willing to spend a ton of money and wait in line when I could just build one and load SteamOS.
Yeah, and here's the other problem with building one is I know myself well enough to know that I don't particularly appreciate games, and so if I built a Steam box, it would just get repurposed. I would set it aside and be like, this is my Steam box, and then 6 weeks down the road, I'd be like, I never use that thing, and I need it for something else, and then that'll be the end of my Steam box. If I buy it, I probably won't touch it.
So let me tell you about this story that keeps getting kicked around the internet a lot, that we've had a lot of people email and should be our Runs Linux, but we actually did it a long time ago. If you're a long-time Linux Action Show listener, you already knew this. But the scientists who operate the Hubble telescope run Linux. This is the reason why this is getting a lot more attention in the last couple of weeks is a new documentary about the Hubble Space Telescope was just released on Nova. And once it hit Nova, it hit Reddit, and then from there on, people have been talking about it in this last week. We see a scientist in this documentary using Ubuntu to interpret data from the satellite, and not really all that surprising because we've actually talked about it a couple of years ago. But pretty neat. It's called The Invisible Universe Revealed from Nova, and it's an interesting piece about the rescue mission that managed to fix the telescope. Remember that? Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool to see Ubuntu being used to analyze that data, isn't it?
So anytime we see Linux, it's a cool thing. But really, when it comes to these very, very specific environments, these very, very demanding environments, I think you'd probably expect to find Linux. Interesting thing about the Hubble Space Telescope, based on my understanding, is that if anyone takes a picture, it's public domain. So if somebody takes a picture from the Hubble Space Telescope and puts it on Fox News, you can take that picture and use it because anyone can use it.
That's very true.
That's kind of like an open source community styled approach.
It is. Mm-hmm. Hey, we wanted to throw this endless computer in the news segment. As we're recording early, you may or may not have heard of this by now. It's got 753 backers. They've already raised more money than their goal. They wanted a goal of $100,000. They've raised $126,000 with 17 days left to go. It's called the Endless Computer. And while at first we were a little skeptical, it looks like they might be building a Linux computer that could be approachable to everybody. So I'll play a little bit of their video, and then Noah and I are going to talk to you about it because we'd be curious to see what your take is on it.
We can search things, we can study.
Facilitar a vida. Para mim é uma coisa que eu sonho muito um dia.
What would you do if you didn't have a computer? Welcome to the developing world, a place where almost 5 billion people, teeming with potential, don't have access to a computer. The digital divide is hardening, and along with it, what it means to have and have not. A few years ago, while traveling through India, I had a really simple insight. Most people have a television, and I looked down at my phone, and in my hand, I realized it was a full CPU tower. In other words, if you used a smartphone processor to power a full desktop operating system, and you plugged it into people's TVs, you could suddenly make the cost of a computer the same as a smartphone. So 3 years later, Kickstarter, I am proud to announce to you our baby. Meet Endless. the first computer developed with and for our users in emerging markets. It doesn't require training to use. It doesn't get slowed down with viruses. It runs on affordable processors. It can use your TV as a monitor. It's cheaper than most tablets, and it has over 100 applications preloaded that work with or without the internet, including video, health, gaming, an entire encyclopedia, apps to run a business, just to name a few.
Just because we're building an inexpensive computer doesn't mean we're building a cheap computer. We're building our hardware to be the best possible, most luxurious hardware for our consumers.
The opportunity, though, isn't in the hardware, it's in the software.
Endless is going to the field, is going to the favelas to really connect with people, knocking on their doors, asking them what is necessary for your life to evolve.
The thing that to me is most compelling is that what we've built is a system that works with internet, without internet, and it has modes of operation in between.
The most meaningful application will be the Wikipedia application. It's got a large chunk of knowledge and information available in a very easy to access form.
It turns out that there's a lot you can do even by putting health information inside a computer. People can...
So I'm going to stop it here. The full video is available on their site. We've watched the whole thing, and the more we watched, the more interested we actually got.
Yeah, in fact, I think it's safe to say that we started on one end of the fence and kind of got pulled over. But, you know, it's projects like this that excite me for a couple of reasons. One is I feel like they are taking a couple pieces of key technology and key infrastructure and combining them. So, for example, we did an interview when we were out at Scale doing live coverage there, and one of the ladies there, what her project is, they take core parts of the internet, put them on hard drives, and bring them over on servers to parts of the world where people can't get to them. So this is essentially combining that with something kind of like the Raspberry Pi, except I understand that it's x86 based.
It's actually x86 based. The video makes it sound like it's an ARM based deal,
right?
But the base unit is and the secondary unit are both x86. They're Intel Celeron processors, but I mean,
you know what, Chris? I have an Intel Celeron NUC that's at my house, and I call it my task machine, and I do simple things like I'll use terminal or I'll browse the internet or check my email. And I got to tell you, if you're not doing a whole lot, it works just fine. You never know.
They shouldn't have called it Celeron. They should have given it a different name. And there's a couple of things that turned me around on this. So let's start with Endless OS. It's Linux-based. The desktop environment looks to be based on GTK3.
That's reason enough.
And they've customized it a bit. And what's fascinating is earlier on, like 2 years ago in the project's life cycle, they started with Android. And they thought they'd use Android as the default desktop operating system. And they decided they could not get a good enough desktop environment out of Android OS, and they bailed on it. They bailed on Android OS and switched to Linux to make sure they could give a better experience.
Right.
That really pushes some buttons for me because that means they're setting a bar and they're making sure they stick to it. The computer itself is tiny. If you're watching the video version, you get an idea. It looks like a tiny subwoofer. And it has a speaker in it too, which is kind of neat. They talk about the app center it has to install like different apps and health center, things like that. But let's talk about the most important piece, the pricing. So when you look at the pricing, it's not so bad. It starts at just $169 for a 32 gigabyte Linux computer. If you want like Wi-Fi and speaker, you have to go $189. And if you want a 500 gigabyte version, it's $229. And they also offering the buy one give one features like the one laptop per child did.
I think this is a great opportunity. I think it's something that if it was available for retail purchase, it's something I would completely consider just purchasing for my purchasing for my son. And it would be a really great, and Altispeed will probably look into the feasibility of this, but to fitting some schools or a lab.
Look, they have a $2,000 Kickstarter, so for $2,000, which they already have 2 backers on, they've already had 2 people bite. You can outfit an entire school with one of these.
Well,
I'm sorry. They've had 10 people bite on that. They've had 10 people bite on outfitting an entire school.
Well, so Altispeed is not a large company, right? So there's a limit to how much I can really contribute to a project like this. But if I had, with hardware like that, we can outfit. You probably need 35, 40 computers to do something like that. So that works out to be what, $7,500? That's something that we could possibly afford to do, and then we could put these into a school and take those Windows machines out and replace them with Linux boxes. Now I understand full and well that that's probably not what they're focusing on. They're focusing on developing countries, places that don't have a lot of resources.
Yes, they are.
But just the same, I think that especially in early education, preschool, elementary education, I think that there's a potential there.
And I love that it runs Linux. So it's called the Endless, and it's on Kickstarter. Kickstarter.com/project/endless-computers, or just click the link in the show notes. Endless Computers, and it's already sponsored. It's already reached its funding goal. And we just wanted to feature it because it's a great example now of not just how a uniquely designed computer for Linux can bring computing to an entire generation, but like if that wasn't good, like if that wasn't a big enough statement on its own that kind of blows your mind, the fact that it's x86 based, to me, is the bigger story because it then brings it into a whole new threshold. You're talking about a sub $200 computer. It's x86 means that now I'm thinking libraries, now I'm thinking schools, now I'm thinking my kid's home computer, I'm thinking the kitchen computer. I'm thinking because this truly could be when they say endless, they mean it's the possibility for who it could be used for are endless.
Yeah, well, and that important distinction between x86 and ARM is that I have certain applications that I know work well on x86. Some of them are a little bit older, and unless there's somebody around, I'm not a developer. So if I don't have the ability to port that stuff to ARM, it may just never exist on ARM. And I've hit that roadblock once or twice. Not very often, grant you, but every once in a while it happens. And so for something like this, I'm not going to run into that. So if it works on my desktop computer, it'll work on this.
There you go. Well, Noah, that's all the news for this week. Man, are we excited to talk to you about OBS, a.k.a. OBS, a.k.a. Open Broadcaster, and we are going to talk with the founder, Jim, about the project, about how he saved LinuxFest Northwest, the future of that project, and some of the big challenges. But first, I want to tell you about our segment sponsor, System 76, creators, builders of machines designed, born to run Linux, like the System 76 Meerkat. Speaking of LinuxFest Northwest, we had the Meerkat at our booth, running for 3 days straight, powering our displays. It was great. People stopped by. They like to check out the laser engraving of the System 76 logo on top. And Noah, the System 76 Meerkat, it's so easy to set up. Even a Canadian BSD could do it. Even a Canadian BSD user could do it.
Yeah.
Did you catch that?
I did. We handed Alan the box and we said, "Here, see what you can do with this." And he got it out of the box, got it plugged in, got the thing turned on, got through the setup. Even though he ran into a little bit of an issue because he tries to BSD his way through Linux sometimes, but. There is a picture of Alan very
Jude,
happily setting Linux up for like the fourth time, actually, because he throughout the course of LinuxFest, he actually ended up installing Linux more than he installed BSD. Actually, I don't think he installed BSD once.
No.
That's
awesome. Yeah, it's so easy to set up a System 76 Meerkat. Even a BSD user can do it while smiling. So go check it out, system76.com, and it's fun. Alan was seriously. He didn't enjoy setting up Linux. He's a trooper for doing it for us.
Alan doesn't. I think it's almost kind of a show. I don't think Alan really cares.
No, I know. Yeah.
I think he just likes to like we don't actually think that he can't set up these things.
It's his brand.
Smart.
It's his brand.
Yeah.
You know what? Go to System 76. They got laptops, desktops, even servers built to run Linux. That way you don't have to fight with your hardware. You get to play with your Linux. System76.com. Tell them the Linux Action Show sent you, please. So we were so stoked to be able to actually stream live using Linux, and it initially wasn't going to be our original plan. We had planned to do it all like we have before under the Mac and Wirecast. It was sort of our go-to, tried-and-true solution. It has all the features we want and then some, and it's pretty flexible, and we have a couple of experts on the team. But as you can see, Noah would not let this stand, and as an opportunity opened, we didn't have that hardware available or software available to us. So we had a crack in the plan to slip a little Linux in there, and sure enough, once you slip a little Linux in the crack, it never gets out.
So back almost a couple weeks before I came out for LinuxFest, I had asked Chris, I said, "Hey, would you be open to using Linux for the broadcast?" And of course, Chris's answer, almost anytime you ask him something like that, is, "I would love to use Linux. I just don't think it's there yet. But if you want to spend your time all day for weeks and possibly wind up with nothing, go right ahead." So I did just that. And as he predicted, I came out with nothing because I tried to use SnowMix, which supposedly promised it was going to do all of this stuff. But after playing around with it for almost a week, I was nowhere. So I had to eat crow, and I called him and said, "Yeah, you know what? It's not going to work out. So I guess let's use the Mac Pro." So I land, and of course we hit the ground running. We had the whole Angela situation. Man. So I didn't sleep. I didn't sleep Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then I got a little bit of sleep on Sunday, and then we found out the guy that was going to do the production for us with his equipment and his camera and the whole 9 yards had a family emergency, wasn't going to be able to make it.
The chat room has noticed that we now refer to it as the whole Angela situation because it was so much drama for us.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole nother episode, literally.
Yeah.
So anyways, we start thinking, well, what can we do? Well, we have access to a couple, other pieces of hardware that we can try to shoehorn into being a solution, but they all kind of revolved around proprietary solutions, and really they weren't an optimal streaming rig to begin with.
Right.
And so we're talking about different ways to do this, and I didn't have an answer because I thought I'd already spent a week, and I already know that's fruitless, so why even go down that road? But I have this weird problem. Anytime somebody says there's a possibility we can use Linux, so I stay up all night again. So now we're at like Monday.
This is no joke either.
And
seriously.
I'm Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I spend all night up to like 5 in the morning trying to research this stuff, learn about this stuff, and I finally come across I come across OBS, and I'd seen it before, but I could never get it to build.
Before, yeah.
And so I try to get it installed, and as usual, it doesn't work. So Thursday, I go back and I try to install it on the Bonobo. I take the Bonobo with me, and the great thing about System 76 and the Bonobo is I can get Linux loaded on it in about 6 minutes. I get the proprietary graphic drivers installed, which I found in an obscure blog post, and boom, OBS works.
Yeah, it turns out, and we're going to discuss this with Jim in the interview, OBS uses quite a bit of GPU acceleration to do a lot of the stuff it does, which makes total sense. And if you were going to design software today, is exactly how you should do it, right? That's why the GPU makes a big difference. But in order to take advantage of all that stuff, you have to have the proprietary driver. Normally, when we're loading a machine here at JB1, we don't load the proprietary graphics driver unless the workload specifically demands it.
So I get it working, and I come running up to Chris's office like an infant.
I thought like there was a fire. Seriously. Boom, boom, boom. He comes running. I was like,
look, it works. It works. Look, I can switch. It works. Look, can we use it? Can we use it? And he goes, maybe. But here's the thing. It needs to be reliable, and how are you going to plug cameras into that? And I went, into the USB ports. Which ones? The two on the two on this. We have more than 2 cameras. We have an audio. Oh, geez. We didn't even close.
Where are we going to store all the clips?
So he goes, all right, well, I have to go do a show. Here's an extra computer. Do something with it if you want. I'm like, all right. So I take it downstairs, and we have Alan.
It used to be our production Hackintosh. It used to be what we did a lot of our shows on.
So Alan and Q5 and myself are sitting tearing this thing apart, trying to resurrect it and breathe.
Seriously,
it's not working.
I think I have I'm going to go check. I took a couple of pictures.
Yeah, it's on Facebook as well. Angela posted it.
Oh, actually, you know what? I have a whole album, and you should see. So it's funny because the group of people that are working on this, it's like it couldn't be a better group because obviously Noah tears apart PCs for a living all the time. He does the technician work. Alan builds servers constantly. Plus, he has all of the live streaming expertise, and you've got the media production background as well.
Right.
So you couldn't have a better team of people working on this particular computer.
Yeah, we really did. So we're sitting there, and we eventually come to the conclusion I was making trips to Best Buy. I'd go buy RAM, I'd bring it back in, try it, didn't work. Tried to pull the GPU out, that didn't work. Eventually, we narrowed it down to one of 3 things: the power supply, the CPU, or the motherboard. And that is me going, what the heck?
Yeah, we're like, this is a good rig, it has good RAM, good processor. What is wrong with this thing?
My spidey sense tells me there's nothing wrong with the power supply because nothing about the problems that we're experiencing seemed like a power supply issue. So eventually, we said it's got to be the motherboard or the CPU. So Chris comes out after doing 2 episodes of Tech Snack, and I'm like,
Snap. It was like a 4 or 5 hour recording marathon.
So I said, I really hate to do this to you, Chris, but we need to go all the way to Renton to go to Fry's, which is a store I know you love, and we need to buy a new computer to do this.
Yeah.
And so Chris goes, all right. So we drive all the way to Fry's. We drive like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and your hate is well justified, as I can personally attest. We purchase new equipment, take it all the way back to the studio. So this is 9 o'clock at night. Mind you, we have to be on the road driving to LinuxFest Northwest by 1 o'clock in the afternoon the following day because we have to have everything set up by 3. We have to get there by 3, have everything set up, and be to dinner by 6 because this is all, there's reservations, and that was the only place that they had those dinner reservations, and you would pay to float everyone out here so we could have this community time. So there is this super tight timetable. Now, mind you, I haven't slept in the last 3 nights. Really, I've gotten maybe an hour or 2 of sleep. Not to mention the fact that the week before that I hadn't slept because I was working on Angela's thing, and then the week before that I hadn't slept because I was trying to recover the interviews that we had filmed the week before, which I was up all night filming. So I midway through this project, I hit a breaking point. I hit a spot because nothing was working because we had the drives misconfigured. They were plugged in different ways, and it was trying to install to SDF or SDG. And I guess in the installer, basically you have to be on SDA or SDB. And Alan did not want to accept this. He wanted to try and debug the installer at 5 o'clock in the freaking morning when we have to be done. So and you're going to see a video because we filmed throughout the process, and you see me just lose it. I just get to a point and I'm like, I'm done. I can't take anymore. I hit my threshold of how tired I could be, and all I wanted to do is sleep. I didn't care if it worked anymore.
But it's got to the point though. There's this nagging piece in the back of your mind. It's like, if we don't have this fixed, we don't have a live fest.
Not only that, if I don't get it. This is my opportunity to say, you don't have any other choice, so let's try Linux. It just doesn't get an opportunity does not get dropped in your lap, and Noah does not miss an opportunity to switch someone to Linux. So we doubled down, and it took me till 5:30 in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. Alan had since gone to bed. Everyone was gone. I'm sitting there working on it by myself. But lo and behold, by God's grace, we got the thing working, and we got it working well. So Chris is going to roll a video, and this is clips throughout the night, little bits. I mean, I was trying to get work done too, but I have had multiple people can attest. I have taken no drugs. I have drinking no alcohol. I have no reason to lie about that, and I have gone nutso.
Here we go.
There is the new motherboard.
It's right next to the.
And there's Alan.
Very sexy motherboard.
Yeah. Alan.
Fucking the cabling.
Yeah, he decided. Chris did not do such a. Chris's cable management leaves something to be desired.
I don't know if he did it or not. There are some zip ties on here that I might try to avoid having to cut.
Yeah, I just cut them. So I'm gonna put that M.2 SATA card in. That's what I'm working on.
That would be nice. Yes, I accidentally connected the power thing to the hard drive LED.
Okay. All right. So
power switch is the 2 in the middle.
Okay.
On the bottom side. I just really pissed. I deleted all those HFS partitions like 3 times, but it doesn't actually apply until you apply.
Right.
Except when you're in some tool where when you don't have to apply and it just live deletes shit.
Yeah. So here's what happened. I am really tired. My sleep schedule is all messed up. I opened up the disk utility and deleted the boot partition.
The whole Linux partition. He was trying to create the HFS, or not the HFS, the LVM.
Yeah.
For the rest of the storage.
The storage, but
and the one thing he deletes is the one thing we didn't want to delete. and I was literally like practically grabbing the keyboard trying to stop him, but
he tried to tell me.
Stop.
But like sometimes like your hand like it sends a command.
Yeah, we had this discussion a couple hours ago, and so.
Hey, there it is. Now we can boot up the Kingston at least.
Is that the Kingston?
I assume so because it's not the 2 Apple crap.
No.
That's not good.
That was the Kingston. Don't worry.
Okay.
There are many drives. This machine has like a bunch of random disks in it that all have random shit on it.
Okay, so I would actually be worried about this, except it actually literally, because of the incredible power of Linux, it took me like under 10 minutes to get everything set up. The hardest part was actually troubleshooting the fact that an audio interface didn't work.
Yeah, and it was mostly just because you assumed that it did.
If you hit this button quickly, then we don't have to actually boot into the. Now I can go to install.
Yeah.
There we go. So now we're going to reinstall Linux, GNU/Linux. Okay, so to be clear, has anyone in this room seen me take any alcohol?
No, it's not alcohol. You're just sleep deprivation.
Yeah, sleep
I'm
deprivation.
Just a little better at managing it and a little less behind on the sleep.
This is exciting, Alan.
But you better watch what I'm doing because I've never installed Linux before. We definitely want
check
the
that
MP3
box.
codecs.
You want check that box.
Wait, hold on. So now Alan is installing Linux. We need to tweet this out real quick.
I did the last one.
He actually installed it last time too. Did a very good job.
I know what I'm doing. I've done Linux before. I just prefer BSD. I don't have anything against Linux.
That makes you a much more legitimate user, Alan, because you know the differences. No, we want the C300. Yeah, the Crucial. I want the Crucial because I don't trust OCZ. I've had like 4
My
OCZ.
Vertex 3 is just
I've had 4 OCZ. In fact, I am so.
There's a reason they went out of business and got bought by Toshiba. So.
Here's the thing: I've had so much bad experience with OCZ. Now that'll actually work because now it's connected to the
internet.
Yeah. I'm so tired.
Did you hear the sound
I just want to sleep.
Yeah.
We're hung up on the time. That's funny.
No, this one took a long time last time too.
I'm just thinking about what I'm going to hear later when he regrets making this video.
No, I'm not posting it or anything. I mean, I might. I probably will. I'm pretty good.
Yeah, you're not. Gonna post
call it stream. Oh yeah, that'll work. Yeah.
What JB All series?
That makes no sense, Alan.
Yeah.
That makes no sense. Stream, or yeah. No, not JB. Don't do JB Studio. Do JB Stream. Yeah, mobile. Yeah, that's good. No. Okay, fine. I will not tell you.
Yeah.
That the password is Big Honkers 81.
Yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah. No, we won't say that. Do you ever do that, like when you type your password? I do that sometimes. I do.
But that's mostly out of habit from years of not doing that.
Yeah. Okay, well, no, that's a nice one, dude. Nice push. Nice. It had good tone.
I haven't had anything
good.
carbonated
It had good intonation. It had good projection. You belched from the diaphragm, projected forward. I love it.
I'm
so anyway, if you haven't figured it out, I am really effing tired. Like, I have literally hit the limit of how tired I think I can be. Yeah, because my sleep schedule is so screwed up, and I've had
Well, last night after we went back to the hotel to go to sleep,
I had to go do work.
Couldn't go to sleep.
Okay, I have to do work. I have to do work because I'm here all day working on this crap. But then the night before, like 2 nights before that, we were working on the Mac, and then a week before that, I stayed up trying to recover the interviews, and it's like, in the past 3 weeks, I've not slept 5 of those nights, and it's really catching up to me. And now I'm doing really dumb things.
I don't do the whole not sleeping thing. I get a couple hours, otherwise
I would love to. It's just I run out of frickin' hours in the day to sleep. Well, anyway, so now we're going to reinstall Linux for the second time, but I'm not worried because the entire this process, this install is going to take longer because we're connecting.
It actually managed to discover the internet this time. So
well, it didn't. It wasn't that it didn't discover the internet. So I plugged it into the inner tube.
Oh, right, to stream
connector.
it. Yeah, and so now it's going to install some updates, which is going to take slightly longer.
Actually,
but
it's going
in
to
the end, we kind of want that done anyway. So
yeah. But anyway, so it's going to do that. And then,
if anybody should be saying it, it's me with the whole patch your shit.
Yeah, exactly. Patch your you know what. So what we're going to do is we're going to get Linux installed for the second time tonight, and then I'm going to reinstall the broadcasting stuff, which took literally 10 minutes, if that. Probably 5 minutes. Actually, I bet I can do it under 2. And then I'll just double check that everything. Oh crap! You're gonna have to get
language packs. Really? Can you skip language packs?
You could. What if I want to speak Japanese? Or Chinese?
You got the mouse handy?
Or Mexican? Also known as
Spanish. Spanish.
Ow.
The skip button is grayed out. What the fuck's the point of a skip button? Oh, I think I might have actually skipped something.
You call it? Yeah, you probably skipped.
And then the time went from 5 seconds back up to 40 seconds.
Yeah, see? A lot of good that did.
Whatever. Now it's down to 4 seconds.
0. We're at 0, and we're still waiting.
And we're
Why
less
are we
than
waiting
50%, but we're 0%.
Wow. Well, 0%.
Anyway, LibreOffice.
All right, so anyway, so we're going to do this. We're going to get Linux installed, and we're going to go back. We're going to download and install the broadcasting software, and then we're going to connect to the audio interface. We're going to give it one last test, and then I am going to sleep.
Yes.
Good night, everybody.
I cannot install Linux because I don't have a cow.
we have tried. We've gotten Linux installed. I am more sleepy than I was before. And if you look at the error message we have,
oh no,
it says grub install error failed to get canonical path of /cow. There is no cow in my home directory, so we can't install grub.
That's pretty good,
yeah,
man.
Somewhere around 5 a.m. I just didn't care anymore.
Yeah, and then you actually managed. So you drove Alan home, and then managed to come back.
Well, because here's the thing, he wanted to redo the grub conf file by default, and I'm like, yeah, well, let's just switch the hard drive order and install it like we always do. Just stick the USB stick and click next 1,000 times, and then it'll work. And then it did work.
You know, it's funny though. You said something. It was just sort of a throwaway line there. You're like, well, once we get the OS installed, it's just 10 minutes to get all the broadcast software installed, and that's so the case when you move your production over to Linux, under the Mac, it takes an hour to get the Mac set up, or 40 minutes or 20 minutes, whatever, and then it's go download the software. After you get the vendor's website, you log into the vendor with your special credentials because you've bought the software. Then you download the software. Then you have to activate the software with their key and register it with their server, and then set it all up. And with OBS and other things, it's or Darkcast or whatever, it's just boom, you just get it from the repo and it's set up and it's ready to go.
Yeah, and it was 2 commands to get OBS installed, and to OBS's credit, or OBS credit, once I installed it, it worked just fine. In fact, the audio interface, I thought I was going to have to troubleshoot that and figure out how that worked, and it turns out I just plugged it in and specified it, and Pulse took care of everything for me. So
it works well.
It was a fun project. Looking back on it, I'll just look back and laugh. At the time, even though I was laughing, it actually really wasn't funny because I knew it was on the line, and I knew I wasn't going to get to sleep until it worked. But it worked. It all worked out, and now we have Linux.
At least it was all for something. It wasn't for naught. And so after we had such a great success at LinuxFest, and really were blown away, we suspected it was possible that the build we used to make it all happen might not have been more than 2 days old or so. And we were so appreciative. We said, you know what? We have got to bring the founder of OBS on, and OBS or OBS. We'll get the official pronunciation from him and talk about where it's going. And so we did just that. We reached out to Jim, the founder of the OBS project, and brought him onto the show. All right, Noah, how excited am I to welcome Jim to the Linux Action Show, the founder of OBS. Jim, welcome to the Linux Action Show.
Well, thank you for having me.
So, Jim, it's kind of short notice because we just used OBS over the weekend, and after we got done, we're like, all right, we got to contact these guys. We're really, really super impressed. But maybe for those uninitiated that are watching the show, could you give us the elevator pitch on what OBS actually is?
Well, OBS is a live streaming or recording, sort of program. It lets you composite. It's video mixing, audio mixing, all that sort of stuff in real time, and it lets you either record or broadcast and it's a very high performance. That's one of the biggest emphasis of the program.
Yeah.
So
we noticed
that's basically what the program is about.
We noticed too when we went to stream that the reliability was amazing. It's very clear that the software is in the early stages of development, but even at that stage it was rock solid. It never once crashed, despite doing some really nasty things to it. We were disconnecting cameras that it thought we were going to be there and reconnecting them and changing them around, and the software, like a champ, it didn't crash. I take it back. It did crash when we lost the internet, and then I had to restart the computer, and then somehow OBS shut off. So
it would have got bad. But during all of that too, Jim, I would estimate we had around 30% CPU load. How is OBS achieving that? How are you achieving pulling in all these camera feeds and not totally slamming the CPU? Is there some sort of GPU magic going on there?
Yeah. We try to utilize, shaders and everything, for most of the stuff that we do, even like color conversions and things like that.
Yeah.
It's always tries to put anything it can onto the GPU whenever possible.
And so you pronounce it as OBS, not OBS.
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 Yeah.
Okay.
Now we have the insight. That's what we're going to call it.
Yeah, we like that. OBS is good.
I don't mind that people call it OBS. That's just what I personally call it.
So why Linux? Why not focus on the Mac, which has a great graphics?
It's all three platforms. I'm making it compatible with Mac, Linux, and Windows. This is actually a rewrite of the original Windows version. The original Windows version was like terribly written. It was. Okay. I wasn't really making that for anybody at the time. So I guess you could sort of consider the original program sort of a prototype. I was just experimenting. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know anything about encoding. Well, I did know a little bit about encoding. I've done encoding before, but I never did like video encoding and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a really difficult thing trying to sync up like audio and video, and oh man, what a really challenging program this has been.
Oh, I bet.
And this has actually been in development for like a year and a half now, this new version, So, it's actually been quite a while in development. It's not actually too early. Its progress has been kind of slow.
Now, when you say it is for all three platforms, do you consider Linux to be, I understand that it sounds good to say that we're going to make it for all three platforms, but the reality is that the underlying systems of each one of those individual platforms, there have to be some separate hooks, and you have to do things slightly different ways, right? So I guess it was really surprising to me that Linux seemed to be treated like a first-class citizen.
No, I don't think it's all that surprising. When you have an open source program and you have, when it's an open source program and you make it available for all platforms, people of those platforms are going to come and, contribute that stuff. And all the Linux stuff that we've had have been thanks to all of the Linux developers like Leonard, ComputerQuip, PTPN earlier on in development. And, there's just been so many awesome developers. So, I wouldn't say it like it's any one person's,
Well, however you're accomplishing it, it is really refreshing to see that. Now, obviously, like I said, like you said, it based on the version number and based on looking at the feature sets that are there, there are some things that need to be that will be continued to be developed. And I commend you guys for doing it right the first time, because everything that is there works flawlessly. But one of my questions is, if somebody wanted to contribute to a specific feature or a specific request, do you guys have like an open source bounty program, or is there a place that you prefer to get feedback from the people that are using it to say, hey, listen, I would contribute some money to try and see if we can get this feature worked out or this thing implemented?
No, we don't really have like a bounty system. Like I have like a general bug tracker and stuff like that. We put feature requests on there and things like that, but I haven't really like investigated or spent time into like actual bounty stuff or anything like that. I take the, I get donations myself, and then I actually I try to give those donations back to other, like something totally awesome, so I don't actually, people don't know this, but I actually don't keep those donations for myself.
That is incredible. See, and you exemplify a perfect community member. You exemplify a perfect community leader. Let me ask you something, since you brought it up. How do people go about contributing to the OBS project, or contributing to you, that you can then distribute to the people that are contributing?
Could you repeat the question? What?
How do people contribute monetarily to the project?
Well, I just have a donation. We also have Bitcoin and stuff like that, but that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't have anything else other than just general PayPal donations.
What Noah and I came to the realization of, and what really got us excited about OBS, is we, for the last 5 years or so, have used a piece of production software called Wirecast. Are you familiar with Wirecast?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I tell you what excites the hell out of us is never using Wirecast ever again. And the other thing that excites the hell out of us is Wirecast is run by a company called Telestream. No hard feelings against Telestream, but they have their own agenda. They have their own things they want to have accomplished, and they really have no concerns what a podcaster wants out of their software. But the advantage of something that's open source, basically what I'm trying to tell you is, if you had a bounty source to have certain features added, I would have my community fund those bounties, and I would fund those bounties to have those features added to OBS to make it more usable in podcast production. There are features, with open source, that I feel like I could have more of an influence. So if you had a more structured way for me to fund those things, guys like Noah and I would be throwing money at those bounty sources to get those features added to OBS. And I think community members who follow podcasters that would also use that software would also be willing to do it, because in a sense, there are features I feel like that if were added would benefit everybody. And I could never convince Telestream to add them, but it seems like an open source project, there might be a shot there. And if we had a feature added to say, make something possible so we could do something at a live stream at a fest, then every podcaster or everybody that uses OBS after that could also take advantage of that. So Bounty Source seems like specifically for something like this could be really beneficial.
And it's a double-edged sword, too, because then the other thing that's going to happen, if we started pushing for that to get people involved in Bounty Source, but it's a double-edged sword, because then you're also going to get people that develop, and they'd say, hey, listen, I don't have a lot of spare cash, but I'd be willing to contribute my time or volunteer.
I think I lost you guys.
Yeah, I'd be kind of... Oh, is our connection breaking up with you? Yeah, I think it is. So, Jim...
it was just for briefly.
Yeah. So, Jim, what we were particularly excited about is, I think OBS seems like in this particular market has a real advantage of maybe giving content producers the ability to vote with things they'd like to see added to the software they use to produce their content, whereas commercial software, that's completely locked down. And so things like Bounty Source would give content producers like us I would vote with my wallet constantly if I could do that. Have you given more consideration to it, or does it seem like it'd be overwhelming?
Well, I have given consideration to Bounty Source in the past, but the problem is that getting really high quality developers is few, and especially in this particular area. And
right.
Like graphics and high performance, systems programming. It's kind of difficult. And the problem is that what if someone implements what if someone implements like a solution and they do it terribly, or they don't do it in the way you want, and they're getting pissed off and they're demanding, that you pay them for it or something like that. We have some concerns about it. So we haven't moved to that quite yet, but we've thought about it. And I think if it's possible in the future, I do want to be able to do it. But
Well, you can count on our support. If that ever becomes a reality, please reach out. My personal support, and it sounds like Chris's support as well as the network support, as well as our community support. I think there's a lot of people that would, that would really like to do that. Now, I have a specific question. When will keystrokes or shortcuts, hotkeys, be implemented, or has that been talked about or thought about?
That's actually what we've been working on right now. Okay. I mean, that's coming up next updating.
Ooh, really?
Next update. Yeah, I already have finished. I actually just finished Linux-specific hotkeys and just the other day. So
great.
I like you more and more, Jim.
Great, Jim. So, Jim, I'm picking up something that I'm a little worried about, and I wanted to just kind of pick your brain about it. It sounds like this potentially the OBS or OBS might become a project that's maybe too much of a project. I mean, because it sounds like, sometimes when you get into some of this encoding stuff, it's black magic, and it's like you're almost pushing into the fourth dimension to make all of this stuff work. And do you feel like there is a point where it's just unsustainable? It could be reaching a point where it's too much work, or do you think it's something that is sustainable over a long period?
No, it's honestly, there's no such thing as too much work. The only problem is that there's too little time.
Yes, sure.
So all we need is time and workforce, pretty much.
So how many people are working on it right now? Is it just you, or is there others?
No, there are a bunch of others. I mean, I was mentioning earlier that there are a whole bunch of Linux people working on it, and on the Linux side specifically, and there's one really good person who likes to focus specifically on Mac, and that I personally like to focus specifically on Windows, because I've been like a Windows developer for quite a long time, even though I actually do prefer Linux, but I just stuck on Windows just because it's like what I've used for so long.
That makes sense. So I'm glad to hear that too. That's sort of the core of my question there is if you sort of have a good team around it too to help it keep going.
Yeah. I have an awesome set of people that I'm really lucky to have, and I've worked really hard to make sure that we can all work together really well. That's actually one of the most difficult parts of being a maintainer, is getting people to work together and communicating. And communication in general. It's just
And with this particular type of project, is it sort of a niche of developers that are really qualified to work on something like this? Because it seems like it's specifically tricky kind of software to develop. It's not something that anybody just seems like they'd be able to start on. Did I lose you?
You're sort of cutting up there.
Yeah. I was curious, do you have a hard time finding developers qualified to work on OBS?
Yeah, that's the problem I was mentioning earlier, with the potential problem, with bounty swords, is that really qualified, if it's very difficult to get qualified developers in this particular area, just because the people who can do this stuff in the way that you want, in the way that you want them to do it, or in the way that that is ideal, they usually already have a job and are being paid lots of money by somebody out there.
Right. Yeah. True. That is a problem.
So you can't really, you have to rely on random people on the internet. Some of them are really good, especially Linux people. Because people love Linux. They love to spend time contributing to Linux. That's what I love about Linux. I wish everybody would switch to Linux. God, I wish all my games would
we hear you.
Hey, you are enabling us to switch to Linux.
Seriously.
That is what you and your project are doing at this very minute.
That's one of the reasons we're really excited, is because it's sort of there's a lot of pieces in our tool chain that we have been ready to move to Linux, and this is sort of the last major piece. So this is pretty exciting for us, and that's why I'm really glad to hear the Linux support is going to continue. Jim, I just kind of was wondering. Let's go to my last question. I don't know if you have another one, Noah, but my last question is, what would success for OBS look like for you, or does it look like that now, or do you have something you hold in your mind, like a couple years down the road when we're finally this, or we have this many people, or what is it that you kind of are driving towards?
I love this project so much. It's so much fun, and it's so challenging for me personally. I've been able to, thanks to everybody, I've been able to, sustain a somewhat livable life of this now. Fortunately, I'm really, really happy about it, and so I feel it's really successful, and I just have so much fun working on it, and everybody who works on it also has a lot of fun. So I feel like it's already a major success. So we have a lot of users, and I'm really proud of the project, and I want to take it to the moon. Seriously, I want to see how many awesome things we can do with this project and make it better and add more features and things like that.
Awesome, Jim. You are always welcome in our community. We have an IRC going all the time. They'd love to chat with you anytime, or our subreddit, all those things. Follow us as we go. As we go out to events, we'll be streaming now using OBS, and we'll be thinking of you. We really appreciate the work you and your team are doing.
Yeah.
So keep it all up, and hopefully we'll be in touch as time goes on. I think that'd be great.
Absolutely awesome software.
Yes.
Best software I've used in the last 2 weeks. Favorite project. Hands down favorite project.
There you go.
Well, thank you. And remember, it's OBS.
OBS.
Not OBS, not OBS, and not OBS. It's OBS.
OBS.
And that hopefully will settle all those people that are upset about the OpenSUSE build service. We're calling it OBS from here on. I love it, Jim. Well, Jim, thank you so much for coming on the Linux Action Show, and seriously, keep up the great work. And that brings us to the end of this week's broadcast. But Noah, before we get out of here, we got some feedback. People went over to jupiterbroadcasting.com, clicked the contact link, and chose Linux Action Show from the dropdown. And because you did such a good job, we're going to read your emails now. Or linuxactionshow.reddit.com. We are so proud of you. You have just done so well.
Wow, that's condescending.
All right, Noah, do you want to take
All right.
take
Kevin writes in with a non-condescending email, and he says, I'm looking for tips and recommendations for building a system for live streaming on the local network. My church is looking to basically put a camera stationary up in the back of the sanctuary and be able to stream to TVs in other parts of the building. So here are my questions. If you could provide me with any information, that would be great.
Okay.
Do you have any HD cameras that you like that I could mount on a wall about 150 feet from the podium and get high-quality tight shot of the speaker? Is there some hardware that could take the video directly from the camera and convert it to a streaming standard such as RTSP, so I can essentially use the camera as an IP camera?
Wow.
This would satisfy the basic requirements. The last step will be live production. Is there any software you suggest, preferably on Linux, that would take multiple video streams and allow mixing lower thirds and produce a final stream? So, thanks so much, and keep it up, Kevin. Now, Kevin, this is the part that kind of like irks me the wrong way sometimes, is that I feel like we spend all this time and money and effort to come up with all these, and he fires off an email and he's like, hey guys, could you? Yes, actually we can, because we spent the whole last week doing that. So we'll take the questions in order one by one. As far as high quality cameras, the GoPro I have found to be the most cost effective high quality video that you're going to get.
Yeah, for mounting 150 feet from the podium like that?
I would not do that. I would mount it very close to the podium, or maybe even on the podium.
Yeah.
You're going to spend $200. You're going to get HDMI out. The video quality is superb as long as there is light. The audio quality sucks, but you're going to have a sound system anyway.
Ooh, look at the GoPro commercial.
Yeah, I would recommend the GoPro 3 White. I think that's kind of the sweet spot. It's a $200 camera. It's going to get you 1080p video. Now, we actually we've done installs in the past for houses of worship, and what we've used is actually, and I can get you the exact model number, but it's essentially what it is a security camera. And it's a security camera that does 30 frames per second, that we put a tight lens, like a 104 or 105 lens on it, and pull that in so we get a nice tight frame of the speaker. It's going to depend a little bit about, because I know some houses of worship will allow their speaker to walk back and forth across the stage, and some stay right in the podium. So depending on what you want to do, there's a couple different options. But if you're asking for a generic standard, if you're asking what I would do, I'd use a GoPro. As far as, is there any hardware that can take the video directly from the camera and convert it to a streaming protocol? I wouldn't do that in hardware. I would actually do it in software. It does run Linux, and it is OBS, the software that this entire episode is about, that we just talked about.
Yep. Just put like a Linux laptop there with the GoPro feeding that.
Right.
And OBS could take that feed from the GoPro and then turn that into an RTSP stream, which you would then tune in at your other end.
To be fair, you could actually do it with FFmpeg.
Yeah,
and
OBS required.
I could send you an FFmpeg stream to do that, but you limit yourself.
The nice thing about doing it with OBS in between is then you're going to get local monitor on the laptop, so you can see what the feed looks like, so you can adjust the camera right there.
Right.
And you're going to be able to also like have a slate you could put in if you need to change the camera feed.
So where I was going to go with that was, the last thing he says is, could you do some live production, preferably on Linux, and allow multiple video streams and mixing in lower thirds? And that you have to have OBS. But the nice thing about OBS is it's going to satisfy your first two requirements, or your second requirement rather, no problem. So that would be what I would suggest.
And what is your favorite HDMI to USB adapter that he could use, the one that we've been using here, the Magwells?
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, okay, so to get the so the GoPro is going to give you HDMI out, but you're going to have to get that input into Linux. Now, I like devices that are totally compatible native with Linux. If you do a search for HDMI capture on Linux, you're going to come across Blackmagic. I bought one of these cards because they said it was Linux compatible. Contacted them and they said, no problem, sir. We have the 1004 driver right here. And I'm like, 1004 what? And they go, Ubuntu. And I'm like, what? What about the newer version? They said, oh, we have 1004. Just use 1004. Yeah. Like, you got to be kidding me. The Magwell USB capture device, it's about $300 from Amazon. It's going to get you Amazon Prime shipping. And when you plug it into the computer, it sees it as a video for Linux device. So
just shows up.
It's going to work exactly like a webcam works. Actually, now that I think about it, Chris, that might not also be a bad way to go. If you really wanted to do this on the cheap, Logitech C920. That's going to be a USB webcam. It's going to do 30 frames per second. It's going to be 1920 by 1080. It's not going to be nearly the quality of the GoPro, and I would be a little concerned about the ability to control some of the aspects of the C920 because they do it in software, whereas the hardware, the GoPro does everything in hardware.
There is video for Linux CTL package which you can install and control the camera a bit.
Right, and I've done that. So if you really need it to be cheap, if you need to do it for just a couple $100, I'd look at the C920. But really, it's only $100 more to get the GoPro. Of course, then you have to get the capture device, which is another $300.
Yeah,
but that would be my suggestion.
We have our video production under Linux episode. You can go check out for some extra things on that as well.
Oh yeah, right.
The one we did. Yeah. Not just this episode, which talks about OBS specifically, or OBS.
Yeah.
But is it OBS or OBS?
OBS.
All right, Conrad S writes in. He says, I'm a longtime viewer and love the show. I recently purchased an Android Wear watch, and I created a custom Linux Action Show watch face for it using the last logo. I was wondering if I could get your permission to distribute this watch face for free. This would allow anyone to change or modify the watch face and load it into their Android Wear watch. If it'd be all right, please let me know, and I'll post it to facerepo.com, where anyone could download it freely. I've attached the image. Oh, cool. Do you have the image? Oh, that's okay if you don't. We can look at it later. He says, thanks for all the great work for Last and on Unfilter. Conrad, do it. Is it circular? Because I have the watch LG Watch R on right now. And the last logo is circular, so it's probably is. Huh?
Yeah.
That'd be really cool. I have, I've been experimenting with different wearables to see how they work and how they work with Linux and all those things. And so far, it's pretty straightforward, kind of what you'd expect. But thank you, Conrad, for doing that. I can't wait to see it. Rich F writes in. Do you want me to get... Oh, you got... Holy crap, that looks amazing.
You do the next piece of feedback. I'll get this.
Okay. All right, I will. So Rich F writes in and says, for me, Linux is the only platform. I'm 57 years old and haven't worked for 5 years. 2 strokes and 4 heart attacks will do that to you. I have about 57 cents in my pocket, so Linux it is. For me, it's free and it's good. No, wait, it's great. Coincidentally, with my health problems, I started with Ubuntu 10 something or other, and now we use Elementary OS, which I was pleased to hear you talking about. Elementary was chosen because it was supposedly is light on resources, which is important to me because I'm running on an Inspiron 6000 with 3 buttons missing and only 2 gigs of RAM. In a recent show, you were talking about Ubuntu Mate, which by the sound of things offered even a faster experience than Elementary. So I burned a thumb drive with Ubuntu Mate and put it on my laptop's USB slot, rebooted, and I got Elementary again. This is a problem with Linux distros. Ubuntu many years ago would not boot easily from a CD or a USB stick. Finally, they got that fixed, and Ubuntu is pretty easy to install. Ubuntu Mate, for someone like me, is not easy to install. So while I am no longer a genius, because I've lost a few points of IQ, I'm still smarter than a dolphin and sitting here wondering what to do next. Part of the problem, I think, is Linux folks talk over my heads and many Windows users' heads as well. Oh, you just blah, blah, blah in the terminal. Well, for real newbies, what is a terminal? A lot of people just walk away. Linux Mate has awful instructions for doing an install, and the stuff on YouTube is no better. Why not address this on your show and say, this is for the stroked guy out there. Step 1, Step 2, and so on. It would be a big boost to Linux, and certainly Ubuntu Mate. Now that you've heard my tale of woe, I think the best thing you could do is have System76 send me a new box loaded with Ubuntu. That'd be a good thing. Thanks, Rich.
So a couple of things that come to mind. First of all, we would be more than happy to write back to you and give you a very concise guide on how to get you specifically going step by step. That's not a problem. That's I guess kind of my passion. But coming up real soon, and we're in the final stages of working out the details, but How to Linux is going to be coming up sometime in the near future. And when that comes, that is exactly what it's going to target, is people like you.
Yeah.
Taking you from literally step 1 of, I have a box and I have no idea what to do with it, and walking you through all the way to the point where you are writing the Linux operating system from complete scratch with ones and zeros.
Yep.
Yes.
And we are in the final editing stages now that we're getting through LinuxFest LinuxFest Northwest and we can refocus, you'll probably see something very soon, and I think it'll be a big help. Noah did manage to grab that watch face. He's doing it on the LG Watch R, dude. That's the watch. Slick. That's my watch.
Yeah, so you could have your watch with your logo on your wrist with your time.
I gotta get that.
Yeah.
I gotta get that.
So I think it's safe to say that he is allowed to make this and distribute this?
That is super legit. I agree. I'm at Conses in the chat room, and I agree. The color one is legit. And the black and white one is the always-on mode, I assume. So the LG Watch R supports always-on screens, so that's the power-saving mode because it's OLED. So that's really, really cool. Wow, that is super neat. And he said, I forget, do you remember the site he said they find that out?
Free...
Oh, yeah. Freerepo.com.
Freerepo.com.
And we'll have that in the show notes, too. Yeah.
Facerepo.com.
Facerepo.com. Hey, you want to know something? Altispeed.com. Why would you go there? You can see a little bit more about what Noah does during his day job. Maybe if you're in the Grand Forks area, you want the best damn service in the area. Or maybe even if they're outside the Grand Forks area. What do you think, Noah?
Yeah, we're continuing to expand. I just brought on a guy that is going to be heading up our remote support, and he's going to be dealing with, we have all these customers that write in and say, we would be interested in having you manage some of this stuff. And of course, more and more of our technology is being able to allow us to do some of that work over the internet.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of makes sense for us to start to expand. That's something we're looking at, and hopefully we'll have more information soon.
Absolutely. And if you want to know when we're doing live events, or if we're like, say, recording an episode of the Linux Action Show early, well, guess what? Follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/ChrisLAS. Here, I just did a live Linux Action Show on Monday. Boom. I tweeted out right there. That was your warning. That's a really weird picture.
Kind of reminds me of Mr. Potato Head.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah.
Thanks.
In a good way.
Thanks.
In a good way.
My nose looks huge.
Yeah. But if it was a Mr. Potato Head, we could take it off. You go.
The hair does snap off. Just pops right off.
No wonder it looks so good.
JBLive.tv Sundays, 10 a.m. Now, we weren't live this Sunday because we pre-recorded while Noah was in studio. We want to take advantage of that. And we landed that great chance to talk to Jim after having such a successful weekend. We leaped on it. But we'll be live next Sunday, JBLive.tv, 10 a.m. Pacific. Go to JupiterBroadcasting.com/calendar. You get that S converted to your local time. You don't have to worry about that crazy-ass math. The robots do it for you. Robots no good for you? What? You prefer monkeys? Good news. I got those too. Go to JupiterBroadcasting.com/monkeys. That's where... I should totally set that up. Hold on.
Where are you going with this?
I gotta set that up.
Where are you going with this?
JupiterBroadcasting.com/monkeys is going to be the new place only for the Linux Action Show audience to send back feedback. Hold on. This is really good. So go to JupiterBroadcasting.com/monkeys. Choose Linux Action Show from the dropdown. Monkeys is MONKIES, right?
I don't know. Google it.
It's really hot in here, dude.
Yeah, it is.
It's really hot.
I'm hearing the words come out of your mouth, and I'm trying not to break composure because I'm like, we're in a show. I'm like, what the heck is he talking about?
With a Y. I got monkeys now. Listen. We haven't slept a lot, and it's really warm in the studio today.
It is. It's like 90 degrees in here.
It is ridiculous. So anyways, no, dude. You know this. The monkeys run the contact form.
Yeah.
That's where I was going. The monkeys send the emails off to the appropriate inboxes. The robots handle the calendar.
Yeah, no, I got that right until you said JupiterBroadcasting.com/monkeys. Like, what is he talking about? You didn't tell me you were launching /monkeys.
If you don't want to worry about the monkeys, because sometimes they fling poo. Actually, this is totally the opposite. If you want to worry about poo getting flung, go to linuxactionshow.reddit.com. We'll have feedback threads in there. It's a great way to submit app picks, start a discussion with the community, give support to an open source project, call something out, or if you think there's a news item, comment, votes, all of that stuff. linuxactionshow.reddit.com. It makes this show even better. Anything else we need to cover?
Nope, we got it.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning this week's episode of the Linux Action Show. We'll see you right back here next week. Hey, it's the news, and this episode is brought to you by
Ting.com.
That's pretty good, Noah. Pretty good. Yeah. Would you do that, Noah, if you got stopped at the gas station? Would you do a little karaoke for free gas?
Yeah, I would. I don't have any shame, though. I was the guy that went to try to buy a woman's bathing suit in Costco because she asked.
That is true. That did happen. So, why do you suppose she asked you if you'd like a bathing suit specifically?
I don't know, because she thought I looked feminine, because she heard my voice and she realized that God gave me the vocal cords of a female.
How come my X11 just crashed? Look at my screen over there. Look at that. Look at my bonobes. Look at that. Look at that.
Because you use Arch.
That's some shit, huh? Look at that. It just died on me.
Just kidding.
Look at that. My whole X session's all dead.
You didn't unplug your monitor or anything, did you?
No, but look at that.
Control backspace.
I don't have X or nothing. I don't got X or nothing. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Devastating. Whoa.
Wow, that was cool.
Whoa.
Maybe it overheated.
What is going on? What is going on?
You got it back. Good job.
What is happening right now?
I think that's terrific. Undoubtedly something.
hey, that looks good.
There you go.
Oh, it's working.
Look at that.
I didn't do anything.
Linux. When you doubt Linux, it comes back.
Okay.
Impossible to crash or destroy.
How's